Okay, to start off with, who here has had any experience with using AI? Something like ChatGPT, Midjourney. Okay, ChatGPT, many people. Okay, Midjourney, like the generation of images, fewer people. Okay, and have you used any of these things in business processes so far? Jochem has two people. Okay, because that's what we're going to talk about today, is how you can use these AI tools in business processes. And a lot of things that you see, obviously, now in news and everything is more related to generating content. So I assume that everyone would have the first ideas like, oh, we can write like a blog post, or I can create an image. But what can you do to use it in a business process? I hope that I can skip. No, we'll do it like this. So a different image of the Pope in a puffer jacket went viral. And this was actually the response of someone who had a better prompt for the system. And it created this image, which is actually, in my opinion, harder to distinguish from a real photograph. Anyone see anything that they say like, oh, that's weird?
The combination.
Exactly, the glasses. It's half sunglasses, half regular glasses. That's the only thing that I could quickly see as well. But other than that, it looks really good. And obviously, creating an image like this is, this is fun, but it doesn't really help you in your business process. So I've been playing around a little bit as well to give you an idea of how quickly can you do something. So I went on to, it's also an image generator called Stable Diffusion. I'm not sure if anyone's heard about it, but it's one that you can run on your own hardware as well. And I told it to render a image in the style of Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night of Amsterdam. And it created this. And I thought that this was pretty nice, but it was square, and I'm giving a presentation in a different format, so I figured I wanted to have it in a different format. So I took it into Photoshop, and I asked Photoshop with this new generative fill to finish the scene in the same style. And now we have this. And this took me a half hour plus 2 minutes. The half hour was figuring out how to install Photoshop Beta. I really struggled. And then 2 minutes to generate all the images. And this is basically what it can do very quickly. But if you look closely, I mean, there's some weird things going on, right? I mean, this I would argue is a sidewalk and it turns into a boat or something. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's not really the same style everywhere. So there's some strange things that go on. And that's not necessarily a problem with content generation, because for me it's very easy to see that something is going on. It's a little bit strange. But that might be a problem if you have a business process. So to give you an idea of the problems that can be a little bit more under the surface, I'm also on this Reddit. It's a subreddit for Midjourney images. It's really interesting to see, and people share their prompts and the results that they get. And this person said, basically the prompt was female warrior from a country. So this was female warrior from Greece. And Midjourney created this image. He also did one for Japan. And these are arguably hard to distinguish from real pictures. New Zealand and Egypt. And one thing that you might notice is, to me, it seems like it's all the same woman, relatively speaking, right? It's like very standard facial features like large eyes, full eyebrows, high cheekbones, perfect teeth. These things are biased into the algorithm. So in general, all the images look the same, and these biases they only come out when you use these simple prompts, and you let the algorithm really fill in the details. There's one exception, and that was USA. This was USA. which was kind of funny. Slightly different bias to USA and women warriors from there. But this gives you an idea of sort of how biased actually these algorithms can be. And if you don't notice the bias, that's a problem. And that happened at Amazon. I'm not sure, maybe many of you will remember, but in 2018, Amazon famously stopped a program that they had where they created an AI to have the resumes judged, and then basically what they wanted is like they dump in 100 resumes and it picks the top 5 that fit their that fit their company the best, and then from those the recruiters take 1 or 2 of the best, and that's the idea. But what happened is, because Amazon has a hard time hiring tech job women, the algorithm was like, oh, you know what? Women are not good at tech jobs, so no women. So they were like, but that's easy to fix. We'll just take the gender out of the resume and we'll feed it again and it will work. Almost, because then it decided that if you were a woman that was at an all-women's college, you are not going to be scored high. If you were the captain of the women's chess club, that would also not go well. So it found other ways to work around, say the data, to find the same bias that it thought was correct. So they killed that because obviously that didn't work for them. And you don't want the bias, but it can be very hidden. So these are some of the things that would stand in the way of how you could use AI in business processes. Now, situations like this have actually led the European Parliament to adopt, well, not adopt yet, but they're now discussing the first AI Act. This is the first in the world. It's only in Europe. They voted on it, I think, a couple days ago, like maybe a week ago or something, the 14th of June or something. They're going to vote for the next round again. So it's very much in progress. So it's not very clear what's going to be, but the outlines are very specifically known already, and that is that generated content by AI will have to be depicted as such, as like, okay, this is generated by AI. But also, if you use it in an algorithm, like in the case of an Amazon, you have to be sure that you can explain why your algorithm came to answer A and not answer B. And then furthermore, they have sort of levels of how impactful the process is that you do. So if you do it to, I don't know, select the best color for a candy, that's okay. But if you do it for hiring purposes, there's a higher chance, obviously, of if things go wrong, that it's a discrimination against people. So this is currently in the works. So to summarize, AI can be a very powerful tool if you can use it well. But you have to really, if you want to use it well in a business perspective, you want to really focus on such things as the traceability, the privacy, etc. That's what we're going to look at today. So we're going to look at a little bit of how does that AI come to that image or text or other thing from me just giving it this really short description. I'm not going to get it too technical. This is how it starts with my teeny tiny prompt. This is my sentence of Vincent van Gogh style Amsterdam. That's all I said. And then the AI does basically what is a lot of probabilistic calculations. It's basically probability, but very complex. But that's what it comes down to. So it basically tries to find what is the correct answer based on a lot of answers that it can do, and it comes to an answer. So then it does this, and it extrapolates a huge result, right? So from a very short sentence, I get an entire image, which arguably is a lot more data than those couple of characters that I put in. So this is in very, very limited fashion. This is how a generative AI works. And that's then also what the problem is. Because if we go back to my image of the Van Gogh Amsterdam style picture that I had, it might be a conclusion that you can get is like, okay, so there's one good answer, right? Because it's probability and AI determines what's the highest probability of the right answer. But that's not how it works. There's many right answers. There's actually infinite right answers to this problem. So I have another one. It's also the correct answer. And as you can see, maybe you saw that the middle part, the one that I generated first with a different tool, I actually kept it the same. And here's another one. That's also a arguably equally correct answer to my question to Photoshop, please finish this scene in the style of Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. So there's no right answer if you use this. And this is one of the biggest problems that you can run into, like an Amazon had, is that the AI determines what the right answer is, but it will give you a answer. And because it's a probability method, it might not be the answer that you would say is right. So how do we tackle that? Well, first I want to show you a little clip that with this, hopefully for some maybe new knowledge, you'll now understand that this is never how we should use AI.
That at 9:15, Ray Santoya was at the ATM.
The question is, what was he doing at 9:16?
Shooting the 9mm at something. Maybe he saw the sniper.
Or was working with him?
Wait. Go back one.
What do you say?
Bring his face up. Full screen.
And the glasses.
There's a reflection.
It's Nuevita's baseball team. That's their logo.
And he's talking to whoever's wearing a jacket.
I'm being a witness.
To both shootings.
That's never going to happen. That's never, ever going to happen. Because, as you now know, there's probably 1,000 logos and other things that would also match the same starting point and are all probability-wise equally the right answer. So the question then becomes, how do you use it in a way that you can actually determine it? And for that, we have an idea, and that is that we turn it around. So now we have a large prompt. And by that, I mean, for example, we ask an AI to determine something from an email or a large text. This is something that Jochem did. So he was the one who also, maybe not everyone saw, but immediately raised his finger like, yay, I did this. But you use a large prompt, so you give it a lot of information. And then you ask the AI to do exactly the opposite of what you do otherwise. So instead of having it determine a large extrapolated result, you ask it to interpolate a result, right? So we want to make a tiny result. What I mean by that is we can ask the AI, it's exactly the same generative AI, we just turn it around. We ask it, what is the sentiment of this email? Is someone angry, happy, or something else? Or is it a high priority email? In other words, do I need to respond quickly or not? And you limit the amount of answers that you can get. And this way, you use the same probabilistic method, but instead of extrapolating something where it's basically coming up with the best probability, it sort of deduces from the same probabilities that this is the most likely answer for this email. And the difference is that here, I don't get 5 different answers. I only get one every time I run it, no matter if I shift with the probabilities a little bit. So this is a way that you can use in actual business applications. And how do you do that? Well, for example, going back to the Amazon one, if we would make an improved AI recruitment tool, how it would do that? Well, at Trigger, we have this system where if we hire people, we look at core competencies. And for example, creativity and proactiveness are 2 that we value very highly. So what we could do, for example, is say like, okay, well, if we take that big prompt, we're going to ask the AI to score the candidate on creativity from 0 to 5 based on a part of their resume or the resume. And that would give us just a score, obviously, for their creativity from 0 to 5. Now, it might not be perfect. We might say, oh, I think it's a 4. It might say it's a 3. But if we do this for a lot of different competencies, right, we can then actually stack them and create a much more, let's say, robust model to also determine how well is this fit. So what you can do if you do this multiple times is that you'd start with that AI. So you'd start with, like, this is, for example, OpenAI GPT. You would ask it, okay, can we rate the creativity, proactiveness, maybe some others from 0 to 5? And you get a number of these values. And then from that, what you do is you say, for example, I put them in my trigger application, and the simplest way is I add them all up. So I get all these scores, and the higher the score, the better the fit, right? Or you maybe add a little bit of a weight to each one of them because maybe you find creativity more important. So you do that 1 times 2. But that way you create a traceable, deterministic way to do the same thing that you would otherwise train the AI for, and then there's bias in there, where now you choose the bias, because this is literally your bias, and you can show to people, hey, we scored this on creativity. Yes, we did it with an AI, but we did it in a deterministic way, and also on this, and this point, and this is why this person is a better fit. So that's basically how you get to the end point of, let's say, a candidate score in this way, right? And this you can. This is obviously a recruitment process, but you can use it in many, many different ways. Where if you start framing problems as, can I get something from a wide piece of data to a smaller piece of data, these algorithms can really be very deterministic, and it's arguably automating the soft skill. Because if I would ask any of you to take 100 resumes and give me a score on creativity, proactiveness, and 8 or 9 other competencies, you'd have to read through all of them. You'd have to give all the scores. And even if from those scores I would then calculate it automatically, it would take a lot of time. Whereas now, I can do that in a couple of seconds. So that's a way that you can do this. And you can think about other processes. For example, I can imagine that having a service desk who would want to respond to the highest priority, most angry person first, for example, that would be something that you could order things in. You can also say in a slightly different ways that, oh, if you get a very angry email as a service desk person, it's not the handiest way to respond to that. If you read that, you're also going to get a little bit agitated. If I make a bullet point list out of that, so I'm also going from more information to less information here, then I make it that it isn't as angry, but it's just factual. You can ask that. It takes that out, right? So it's compressing the information as well. It makes it easier for the service desk employee to then respond in a more civil manner. At least I know for me it would be. But that sort of thing is how you can do this. So you can think about the problem as, can I take a larger set of data and can I compress that into scores or smaller things? And then with this, hopefully, we won't be as surprised anymore when this happens. Oh, does this not play?
What if we were to enlarge this part of the photo, not the face, just this part of the window?
Are you thinking of the reflection?
I'm wondering if maybe we can see the kidnapper's face on that side of the window.
Shot.
I need to see you through photo tag up here now.
Yes, I'll continue to hold.
Detective, enhanced and enlarged. Thank you.
It's to only increase the pixelation on all these. You can't even see there's a side view mirror.
It's not like I'm 24 Castle. In the real world, zoom and enhance can only get us so far.
You can't, there's no reflection, it's just a wash.
So hopefully now you know that this is the reality when you extrapolate. And finally, what I wanted to say is that, yeah, here we go. That it doesn't matter how far AI will take us in terms of the creation of content. Because I believe that there will never be anything that comes close to human creativity in the way that we created stuff like this. So I hope that this gives you an idea of how you can use AI in a different way than you might have thought of for now. And maybe this, together with what you did before with the brainstorming about the scorecards and everything, will get you thinking of whole new ways to automate business processes. Thank you.